Good morning, everyone. Um, I have never done this, Justin, this early on a Sunday morning because I usually work um, late into the night, and on the Sundays I try to catch up. But I posted something in the group yesterday, and this was supposed to be was it yesterday or Friday, I think. It was supposed to be just to see if there is any actually even any interest, right? I
Yeah,
don't want to waste my time and the sponsors' time and the members' time to bring a company in that doesn't help the members, and it doesn't help the sponsors, and it doesn't help my mission.
yeah,
Every sponsor that I bring in is supposed to help us for our ultimate goal of helping dentists and helping the younger generation, right? But the Ascend Dental Alliance, right? Do I get this
that
right?
it's
Okay.
a little bit of a mouthful, but that's
Yes.
us. Yeah,
The Ascent Dental Alliance is a company that actually I think Justin and I met on another group, and we kind of argued for a little bit, right?
yeah,
I didn't believe in you, and until I talked to you, and I wanted people to hear you talk actually. In this post that I put, there are some concerns about certain things, and I want to address it. First, let me um, introduce your company in a
yeah,
nutshell. I'm going to give you a few minutes to tell me what it is, right?
yeah,
And then I'm going to ask you a question. Um, there's no secret that I believe private equity should be out of doctor-patient relationship. Are we going to be getting rid of every corporate entity in medicine and dentistry? That's a fantasy. But I want to be able to establish dentistry in general myself and people who believe in me as people who we do not believe private equity should have any say in a doctor-patient relationship. And I constantly hear from those doctors who sell to DSOs that I'm tired, that I am don't want to deal with the staff issues. I don't want to deal with the everyday running of a business. That's why I sold to DSO. So when Justin came to me and told me, look, for a flat fee, we're going to do everything a DSO does for a dental practice, but we don't own any of your equity. Um, Now, that to itself is a question that's kind of come up, but that is basically what you guys are, correct? Go ahead, correct me if I'm wrong, explain about the company and yourself and who you are, and then we can go from there.
yeah. So, quick little background. So, we've been around for 7 months, right? So, we're a fairly new organization. It's a new concept. There's three of us on the leadership team that, our background is in the DSO space. That's how we learned dentistry. That's how we got into this. But about 8 months ago, we kind of got together and we said, listen, guys, like we're sick of the traditional DSO model. We're sick of seeing the doctors sell their practice, make less money, not be happy. But you're always kind of putting on that front of like, oh, there's autonomy and there's transparency. We're like, the three of us take ourselves as very honest and genuine people. And so we're like, we want to do something that we're passionate about. And so we got together and we said, hey, like if you can have software as a service and pay a monthly rate, why can't you have management services to a degree, right? And now we don't do everything a DSO does, right? And we don't pretend to. We sat down, we said, what is the one thing that all three of us are really good at? And we're like, okay, operations, people, so like leadership, recruiting, and strategy and finance. And so we said, okay, like we know those are our three things we're very good at. We kind of put them into four pillars when we add finance onto the side of strategy. And we said, all right, like let's roll this out. Like let's see. We got a couple of dentists, private practice dentists behind us that helped fund our company from the get-go. They believed in what we were doing, and they believe in private practice dentistry. And so we went out and we kind of pitched the idea to dentists, right? And there was a lot of positive feedback. And initially, we signed 4 practices. We have 10 practices that we help manage now. And again, like we focus on 4 pillars. It's operations. So think like onboarding, training, on-site, working with the team, with the office manager, a core of what we do on the operations side. We heavily lean in on finding the right office manager or ensuring we have the right office manager in place. There's the people side. So this one's, really important to us, the leadership, the partnership, and the recruiting, right? So we can help with the recruiting piece of it, but there's a lot of help on the leadership end, whether it's the dentist or whether it's the office manager. We can help in that regard. And again, it's a two-way street. And so while we're helping you, you're also helping us. We're learning things as we go along. And then we've got finance and accounting. So we'll take over all the bookkeeping, the bill pay, financial statements, all the number stuff, that happens kind of in the background. And then fourth, the strategy side. So we'll look at, what can we do? We'll forecast different models. If the dentist is like, I want to add an associate, what would that look like? Well, we can tell you because, we see the financial statements. We'll model it out from a cost perspective. Or if they're like, I want to hire a dental assistant or I want to give raises. There's all these questions that come up. I think the one thing that we found, though, as we work with dentists is we add a different value proposition to each dentist that we work with. So not everyone is the same. And so it may be, husband and wife own a practice and husband is the dentist and the wife is the office manager. And their goal is like wife wants to get out of the practice and they want to spend more time as a family. And so, that was one of the main goals with one of our partnered offices, right? And so we've helped them do that. We found an office manager, trained them up, onboarded them. So the value proposition really varies amongst practices. And I think as we talk about this, you'll kind of see like our process is, let's start with a discovery call. Let's just learn about who you are and who we are. We're not a fit for everybody. We're not going to pretend to be. Again, we're not going to pretend to do every little thing, that like a DSO would kind of pitch like, oh, we do rev cycle, we do this, that, and the other. No, it's not us. So we do a discovery call, see if there's a fit, see what it is that the dentist is looking for. And if we feel that we can add value, we say, okay, listen, next steps are we just do a complementary practice analysis where we'll go in, we'll review your financial statements, we'll review your operational metrics. So we'll pull some reporting out of your practice management system. We'll get your story on the practice, but we really just look at it from like a what's on paper approach to understand, hey, what opportunities do we see? And so once we get that information, we schedule a follow-up call where we kind of do a presentation of sorts, where we go over, here's where your numbers are, here's kind of where industry benchmarks are, excuse me, here's how we believe we could add value. And then it also allows us to see like, looking at our fee and looking at the profit or the lack thereof profit in a practice, like we're not here trying to make somebody go underwater. And so if we see that they can't afford us, then we're not going to be like, yeah, sign up for us, right? Then not afford us in 3 months. So there's a lot of different things that we take a look at, when we're looking at that practice analysis. But all this is free. Like you don't sign up for anything until we go through this, because honestly, as much as you want to know more about us, we want to know more about you. What are your interactions like with your staff? What is your reputation? What is your culture like? Like I'm looking at Google reviews. The first time somebody says they're interested in us, I go to the practice and I look at their Google reviews and I'm like, what do patients think about the practice? So, that's our process and kind of how we get to know both sides. And that, again, like a new concept. This concept really doesn't exist out there. And so it's evolving every single day. We learn from our dentist, hey, you could actually help me do this, or you know what, I don't want your help with that, but maybe you can help me over here. So we're always pivoting. And I think that's the beauty of a startup, is that you kind of learn, hey, what are you really good at? Where are your pain points a little bit? And how can you grow? So that's our background. Hopefully I wasn't too long-winded.
No, that's good. I want you to talk. Sometimes I talk a little bit more than I should, but I wanted to ask you, the 800-pound gorilla that a few people brought up to me, and I actually stopped the thread. I didn't want more people commenting because I wanted to get more information. That thread wasn't for me to produce leads for you, and everybody was like interested. I'm like, oh my, this kind of got a little out of hand, which is actually the testament to the fact that there are so many dentists out there that are looking into this. In other words, they do want more time. Um, a lot of people look at your services and anything else in our profession and say, "Oh my, I can't afford this. This is too expensive." You know, I don't know what's more expensive, time or money. Money is replaceable. Time is not. If you
Totally. Yeah,
go ahead.
yeah, no, it's actually I lately this has been a strong sensation with us is the time aspect. I think a lot of people will look at a service like us and be like, how do you save us money? And I think that's the wrong approach, right? Like the right approach and the right mindset, and the mindset that we work best with is how do you save me time? Like, most recently talking to a dentist in Arizona, does a lot of implant work, and it is, hey, if I can free you up, if we can free you up 2 days a week, and you're doing, arches at $25,000 an arch, how many more arches can you do? And so you look at things like that, like, okay, if I free you up, if we free you up with your time, what more can you do? And it doesn't even have to be dentistry related. It could be educational. It could be with the family. Maybe you maybe want to do real estate more so than you want to do dentistry, right? But I think the time aspect is a really important piece to consider. And again, like during the discovery call, we look to see, all right, how could we save this person time? Because at the end of the day, time is the most valuable asset, and it's worth so much. You just sometimes you don't see it, and I'm totally, guilty of that myself.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if you have children that are growing up, if you have, you know, as you know, our kids, when they turn teenagers, you see less and less of them. If you have, you're a young guy and you realize that, wow, I was very talented. I grew this practice from a $400,000 to over 1 million. But I want to grow it more, but I also don't want to miss out on what is
Yeah,
important to me. Now, if you are someone who is gung ho, if you are someone who doesn't mind dealing with all these things, this is not for you, right?
absolutely. Yeah,
You know,
totally. I would say, hey, if you know this and you've done it and you have the time. I mean, I've got twin girls that are 4. My time evades me quicker than I know. But if you've got the time, and honestly, we've had calls with doctors where we're like, we're not a good fit. Like you're already successful. Don't spend the money on us. Just stay true to what you're doing, and keep doing it really well. So yeah, I think that's absolutely true.
yeah, a couple of things that people brought up. One person privately told me, Bob, you're so for private practice, and this doesn't fit with your mission that, oh, you're trying to just delegate these jobs to even an office manager or that's what you guys are, right? You're a glorified office manager. You're office manager on steroid, basically.
Yeah, to a degree, yeah. I mean, like, I would say yeah, absolutely to a degree, right? And we are partnering with the office manager, and like our whole goal really is to elevate that person or find that right person, because I think what we've learned over time is that the better office manager that we have in place with a dentist, the better partnership that exists, and ultimately, like the office manager is taking even more off the dentist plate, and they know where to focus. They know big picture. Like, hey, I know my dentist wants to grow, and they want to do whether it's implants or what have you. Like, I know what they want to do, and I can help them accomplish that. I can stop the tedious, drama. That is not 100%. I'd say, like, if you can remove the drama 100% out of dental practice, right? Like, I'd love to meet you, but um, I think yeah, we're sort of like that, but we really do work alongside the office manager to help train them up.
Yeah, the office manager becomes basically your quasi employee, right?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And it's funny because we even thought about what if we just internally trained our own office managers, and then like we said like you have an office manager through us. We thought about it. We're like, okay, but we're helping offices all over the country. Like, how do we know where to hire that person?
Right, right.
But yeah, no, it's super true.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, the person was basically, I don't know, upset at me, criticizing me, or maybe even was just curious. Why aren't I promoting the doctors doing this themselves? And I don't know, I kind of told them, maybe you and I want to do this, but there's so many out there that may be struggling, do not have the answers, do not have the training, do not have the experience, and really don't have the time. They want to spend time with their kids. And I don't want to see these offices to say, I don't have a choice. I need to go to a DSO because I'm not ready to retire. I want to
Yeah,
keep working, but I don't want to deal with all this stuff. And especially after COVID, right? Everybody wants to be a TikTok star, right? They want to work from home. So we have a hard time finding employees. What I want to ask you is that someone brought up that was interesting is that, um, look, I'm having a hard time finding an employee. What's so special about you that come to my market and finding someone? I mean, how do you answer that? My answer was, hey, I don't think they can 100% guarantee they'll find you an employee, but they know
yeah,
better ways and they know the methodology of looking for that good employee and kind of filtering out the the, the bad that we go through. Give me a couple of minutes about that.
yeah. So my colleague Marco, he's our chief people officer. He spent
Okay,
20.
we gotta stop. This
Yeah,
is
we,
not
we hit
the,
the name Marco, right? Is this where I hit
yes,
the Marco? Yeah, I hit the
that is a
Marco too.
trigger point in our group. This is not the
Marco
same guy.
Gonzalez.
Okay, this
Marco
is
Gonzalez.
Marco
Yeah.
Gonzalez. Please make sure
So
he puts that last name at the end. Go ahead.
no, absolutely. So he's been in the recruiting space for 25 plus years. Has worked with a lot of large. I mean, he's always in dentistry, whether it's associates or front office staff, hygienists. Um, we also have a dedicated recruiter, talent acquisition manager as well, who's got 15 plus years of experience. And so I think what we are able to do is like yeah, through and again, it's kind of hard to speak for them, but their experiences allowed them to learn different ways to navigate. How do we find talent? Is it through LinkedIn? Is it through Facebook? Is it through job boards? And so they've got this knowledge of like, here are all of these resources I have, right? Like again, I don't do recruiting, so I name those things off the top of my head, and they're probably like Justin. Like, there's 80 other things that are better than what you just mentioned, right? And so I think again, it's you don't know what you don't know, and so allowing us to explore those avenues. And also, the longer as long as we've been doing this, both as a company and individually in the space, we've worked up a bench of people, right, that have kind of followed us. And so in some markets, yeah, we have a bench of candidates for certain positions that it's like, oh, you need a hygienist in this area. Well, because we're concentrated there, it makes a lot of sense. We know people. So again, I think it's the uniqueness of the individuals that we have performing those roles and their background that allow them to know what are the different avenues to recruit candidates from. The other thing too is like the amount of time that you spend on finding a candidate, right, in sourcing, right, whether it's the office manager or the doctor. If you're having to call people and just set up phone screens or get them to come in, again, we're talking about time, right? It all adds up. And so we help to reduce that by taking on the brunt of that, helping to kind of screen them. And I think working with a lot of practices, there's a lot of office managers that really don't know how to screen out for candidates. And so they're like, and they're always in fire situations, right? We need a dental assistant, and they call and they found somebody, you're hired. Come on, start tomorrow. And then, 3 weeks later, it's like, oh man, they're not showing up or they weren't a good candidate. And so the cost of turnover, right, is 2.5 to 3 times somebody's salary, right? That's just a common statistic. And so we're helping to reduce that, right, and not run into that scenario. So the more we've got these experienced individuals screening and recruiting, asking the right questions, understanding the background, And not only that, these individuals also understand the practice that we're recruiting for. We don't go out and say, hey, come join Ascend Dental Alliance. We're hiring for a hygienist. Like, we work underneath the brand of the practice. And that's extremely important
Right.
because the candidates that, again, that we want to attract are the ones that do appreciate private practice dentistry, that appreciate the culture and the atmosphere that it brings. Um, and so we're branding underneath it. Yeah, we'll do some third party branding underneath our name in things like LinkedIn and such, just to see, again, you got to try new things. And if you can drum up interest, and again, we don't tell people you're coming to work for Ascend. No, that's not the case. Like, here's a practice in Hawaii, here's where you'd be going to work, but let's just try different avenues. And so, again, I don't know that there's a magic sauce to it. If there was, we'd probably be selling it and be filthy rich because recruiting is like the number one issue right now. But again, it's just uniqueness and an experience in the space that lets us be effective there.
Yeah, and that's really important for that you brought up, which is my next point that I want to address. And that was the fact that you guys work under the name of the practice, meaning that you're not promoting yourself, you're promoting the practice. You are basically an employee of the practice. That's how I look at a lot of services. People
Yeah,
talk about marketing. Oh, I don't want to spend $50,000 on marketing. Okay, is your practice worth a $50,000 employee who can give you $250,000 more in revenue? If that's an employee you're hiring, the IT department, you're hiring an IT department when you have an all-inclusive
yeah,
IT person. There's so coaching. Would you hire a coach for $2,500 a month to grow your? It's just it's a different mindset, and I'm guilty of not doing it when I was
yeah,
young. This is just in recent years that I've talked to so many dentists that I accept that. Now, what I want to stress here again, listen, these guys are not a match for everyone. This is
yeah,
why they do so much of this stuff ahead of time for free to get to
yeah.
know you, to see if you guys are a right match. And if you're not a right match, you guys don't have to connect together. And if you even connect, what happens if they connect? And then after a while, you find out that you guys are not a good match. What happens there?
Yeah, yeah, no, it's a good point. So let's just say we connect and we sign up for services, right? Our contract it's a year contract, but there's a 60-day out period. So you can exercise that within the year, right? So if you're 4 months into it and you're like, you know what, this just isn't for me, just have a conversation with us and be honest, right? Like, let us know like why. We always ask for 30 days to resolve the issue, right? And I think that's only fair. If hey, if you're not seeing value here, like, okay, let us understand that a bit more and let us maybe work towards that. But no, you can exercise the 60 days within that first year, not a problem. And so again, like, you can get out. We don't want to lock people into a relationship because if there is tension or if you're not finding value, then it's a really awkward relationship, right? Like, it's weird for both sides, and we're still committing bandwidth and people and resources to your practice, and so, like, again, if we're not a good fit, like, let's be honest with one another and say it and exercise the right and move on. It's totally, it's totally okay. And I think, again, honesty is the best policy in that case, and just coming to the table and say, hey guys, listen, here's I don't think this is the right fit, and this is why. And hey, again, we don't pretend to be the right fit for everybody, and we're going to find that out as we do this, right? We haven't been doing this a super long time. We're going to have those conversations. It's not like we're perfect in that sense, and that's okay. Like, we expect it, but of course, on the other side, we expect to be doing more value for more people. And again, it's an ever evolving thing as you grow as an organization.
Right. And I wanted people to hear you say that because that's how I do it with my sponsors. I don't want any unhappy people out there, saying things like that. So they have they say they can do certain things. If you don't agree, you guys come together, discuss it. And if not, they have a 60-day out, which is awesome. I like that. I want to stress to everyone again, the reason this idea is intriguing to me is not because I am going to hire Justin for my practice, right? I am not. I am not. They're not a right fit for everybody. And I brought Justin and their company into the group because I truly believe there is a need for this service. Is Ascend Dental Alliance, Justin, that company? I'm hoping so from because whenever I talk to Justin, I get a good feeling that, oh my God, this is very complementary to what I want to accomplish, that keeping private practice independent and you keep your equity. Now, we can't force everybody to learn all the things that Justin wants to do, and that's where you guys come in. Justin, are you comfortable talking about how much this service costs? Because there was a lot of question about that.
Yeah, absolutely. What we do is, so we have a flat minimum fee of $5,000 a month, right? And like we're a business, we've got to cover our costs, right? We got to be honest about that. It's a minimum 5,000, but it's usually we look at 5% of your trailing 12 months collections, and whatever that number is, lock it into a flat rate. And again, during that practice analysis, we really grow to understand because we've got practices where we're helping. Um, a dentist owns 3 practices, for example, and you may have 2 of the practices doing 1.3, 1.5 million, and then another one was more of a startup and it's doing 400,000. And so we're not going to charge that practice 5,000. So when you think about like kind of a group pricing, if you have multiple practices, we absolutely finagle the pricing there. Again, so and I'll be honest too, like when we initially started this, we're like, oh, maybe we just do a percentage and that's our fee schedule, right? And we're like, well, that doesn't sound very appetizing from a dentist. Like you can make me more money, but you're going to take more money from me. Kind of feels like private equity a little bit. And we're like, no, let's stick true to this flat monthly rate. And so that's often how we come up with the monthly rate, the flat monthly rate. And again, every practice is in a different position. And we know by looking at financials, cash flow, can the practice afford it? Are they on the edge? Do we need to do something to work with them a little bit? And at the end of the day, we're like, okay, there's a team of 6 of us. And if you can hire 6 of us essentially for the price of 1 full-time employee, that's advantageous. And so again, that's our pricing model. And again, we go through that practice analysis to really understand like, what does it look like. And then not only to focus on the price too, but to look at during that analysis, what is the value that we can add? So if we can, sometimes there's services that we replace. You may have an accountant or something of that sort, right? And so we look into say like, okay, you're paying X amount of dollars per month for that resource or for this other resource. With us, that price falls off and we kind of absorb it. And so there's kind of this net cost to the practice and we help kind of uncover that. That's our pricing model. Again, we tinkered with it at first, and we feel comfortable with where it's at now. Again, I think the flat rate piece to us is very important, just because it keeps things consistent. Using the 5% model, is I'd say very common amongst management companies, DSOs. The ranges anywhere up to like 8%. In that space. And so we try to position ourselves at a fair percentage that again wouldn't break the bank for dentists.
But as you mentioned, I want to stress this. You guys are flexible. In other words, it's not 5% do that. If someone is doing different things, you guys, it's a case by case, but it's $5,000 minimum. So
Correct.
You guys can operate. I also wanted to let people know, look, don't look at this 5% getting bigger. Obviously, if a combo practice is doing 10 million, that's a lot more work than doing a one practice doing 1 million. So you guys have to have a lot more resources for them. It's not as simple as just, oh, this is too expensive.
Yeah, yeah, no, for sure, absolutely. And I want to stress that too. Like it's different for each practice. Like if you're talking about a $10 million practice, 5%, it's a $500,000. Like you're not gonna, we're not gonna charge you $42,000 a month for services. That'd be insane. It'd be ridiculous. So again, like I like to always mention that there's a bottom rate of 5 grand. Like people want to know like how much, okay, how much do I have to kind of expect here? Expect at least 5,000. And then from there, like, hey, let's go from there and figure it out together. But yeah, definitely expect the 5,000 mark just because people are curious and they always want to know like, what does something cost? Expect that, but don't expect $42,000 a month either.
Yeah.
And
So
if you have a $10 million practice, kudos to you, right?
exactly. How about specialists? How about practices that are limited to sleep? How about practices that are limited to implants? You guys also, I think you told me that you do have a practice that's just an implant practice.
Yeah, so it's funny that you mentioned sleep and implant. So two of our, I would say, clinical board dentists that helped fund this, but that we're also very close with, that we love what they're doing. One is in integrative dentistry, sleep and airway space, and so we've had a lot of experience kind of working in integrative dentistry, sleep apnea, airway. Um, the other dentist is he only does arches. He travels the country and does full arches. And so, there's also two team members on board, our COO, Rini, and then Chief People Officer, Marco. They both were in the DSO space. They helped start up one of the, if not the largest implant DSO in the United States. And so, Rini, for example, ran one of the largest implant centers in the United States. And so there is a lot of experience on the implant side. There is a lot of experience on the sleep integrative side. And then also like my background is all general dentistry space. And so, yeah, we absolutely are impactful and effective in the specialty space. And again, like we'll be honest too, like if there's a particular specialty and we're like, hey, we don't have a lot of experience in that space, that's not always a bad thing, right? Like we can bring new, different ideas. Like we're moving into the pedo space right now. We just started with a partner in the pedo space, and we've already found how we can add value there. It has nothing to do with treating children. It has everything to do with leadership, culture, and office manager. And then also, it is, you take it on a case by case basis. But yeah, absolutely moving into different specialties. We'll be upfront and transparent with what we don't know, but we'll also be excited about what we do know about the space in general and leadership.
Yeah, and I want to reiterate again, you are not looking for this to be a DSO shell feeding things into DSOs.
No.
You're not looking for private equity to come in here. This is a privately held company, and
Yes.
I guess I can't hold your feet to it, but you guys are planning that this will always be a privately owned
No.
entity, correct?
Absolutely. And like, let's speak on that a little bit more in depth. We're, again, why we formed this was to get out of that space. And the private equity piece, like, it's frustrating. I mean, just even at a personal level, just as I go to my physician's office, right? I see how the private equity is even influenced my car wash down the street. And so, no, that is not our plan. Like, our goal was to create this to just honestly for the three of us to have sustainable income because we all have families, and we wanted to do something we were actually passionate about. We wanted to wake up every day and be like, you know what, I love what we're doing, I love our mission, I love how we're helping people. And then for our investors, like if right, we make it profitable and it continues to grow and they just earn money on their investment just as you would invest in the stock market and expect a return. Like this is a return on their investment. This is not some shill to feed a DSO. You're feeding the families of the people that are working here. essentially. No desire to sell this thing to private equity at all. That would, and it would be hard because, as we pitch ourselves, we're like, we're against the private equity model, and that's not the model that we move in towards. And then all of a sudden we sell to it. It'd be crazy. Like how would a private equity firm retain that culture in that atmosphere? So no, that's not the game plan at all. It hasn't even been discussed. It really is to just, hey, we wanted sustainable income, doing something we enjoy. Our investors, they're doing tons of things on their own already, right? And this is just another one of those things where like, hey, I believe in these people and what they want to do. And I believe in the model. So let's put some money into them and see what they can do. And so far, they've been happy. We've been successful. And we obviously want to keep it going that way.
Yes, and I want to end this by saying that the disclaimer, every person contacting Justin and his company, you need to do your own due diligence. This is not an endorsement of this business. This is just an option for
Yeah.
everyone. I can't possibly vet this company for every practice out there. This is not an intraoral scanner that I can say, this is good for everybody. Go get it. There's a little bit of work on the part of the dentist that needs to be done. And just like coaching, just like marketing, every practice has a different need, and you need to find out if they are a right fit for you. Are you
Totally.
able to, as a practice, allow a company like this to come in and take control, right? They're not taking any equity. You still own it. You can fire Justin. Even if you
Yeah.
go past that 60 days after a year, you can fire them and you regain 100%
Well,
control.
let's talk about the control piece really quick, actually,
Uh-huh.
because I don't. This is for us as a partnership, right? And it's a collaboration, and so I don't think we ever come in looking to control. We don't say, "Hey, we're here to control this." What we do is we put together kind of a mutually agreed upon plan of here's what I want to accomplish, owner dentist. Here's what I want to accomplish, and we're like, okay, here we want to help you accomplish that. We also, statistically on the numbers and the data, see where here's some opportunity. How do we merge those things together? And yeah, there is a little bit of like letting go on the owner's end of like, hey, let go a little bit and let them kind of do their thing. But it's not, hey, we're going to take control. Again, we're not a cookie cutter approach. It's not like, oh, they're going to help me with operations. So they're going to come in with some operations manual that tells me, here's how I got to run my practice. Not at all. We're going to help you craft one for your practice with specific things that we talk about. Everything's different. We're not Starbucks. We're not McDonald's. Neither should your practice. But no, we never want it to feel like we're taking control. Again, it's partnership is the key word here. Like that's really what we strive for. Like it's a partnership. Like as much as we want you to listen to us and our recommendations, we also need to listen to your recommendations. And the more we can be humble, have some humility around, what we're doing and be open, we just unlock a ton of different ideas of how do we tackle this problem that we have. Like we start to get more creative and more collaborative. And again, like that's where a lot of our partner dentists have been like, I just love having somebody that I can work with where I feel like I have a partnership and that I don't feel like I'm doing this alone anymore. Like we've had that, especially in one of our most recent visits to a practice or practices out in Washington. Like the dentist just came out and said that to his entire team, totally unsolicited. And they're like, oh wow, like yeah, that's awesome. Like that's what we aim to do. But to your point, we're not a fit for everybody. That's why we always, we start with the discovery call and let's just see. And then again, we go from there and see if things are a fit.
Now, I want to finish by saying this, and I really appreciate you saying that because there are some people that are concerned, oh, I'm not being heard. However, I have to tell you, Justin, this is a problem dentists have, right? They hire a professional and then try to tell them how to do their job.
Yeah.
Listen, what I was trying to bring out is that yes, they will listen to you, but if you're saying something that has been an obstacle for you to grow, you have to be open to their suggestion. this is not for someone that says, Justin, come in and do my job the way I have done it in 20 years. If Justin has better ideas, and I'm sure you do because you've seen so many other practices that are growing and they're successful, they should let go. Let's put it that way. Not control, but let go a little bit.
You let go. It's very important that you let go. Even us, that we let go too, right? There's always this bias around what you know, right? And as you look back, you always have to be open to it. And yeah, like sometimes there are difficult conversations that we have with the dentist around like, listen, like you're trying to understand why you're in this position. Well, we, here's the feedback from your team. Here's what they told us they didn't want to necessarily tell you. And it's reflection time. Look in the mirror, and you have to own it. And sometimes if you don't own it, it's tough. It's tough to grow, or it's tough to do things differently than you're doing. And again, we're all guilty of it. We're not immune to it by any means, but it is a really important thing to bring up because we see it so many times to where somebody is not even a dentist, but a person is so stuck in their ways, and they won't self-reflect, and they won't give that reflection enough time to see the results. People are like, I want to hire you, and then in 2 months, here's the result I expect to see. And in some cases, okay, that result may be easy, but in other cases, there's a path and there's a timeline that you have to be okay with. Like marketing, right? Like if you're going to go throw money into marketing, everybody's like, where can I throw the money and instantly get a pop of new patients, right? Not very common. You have to give it time. And that's the same that goes with growing as a leader. You have to give it time. You have to be humble. You have to reflect, and be open. And that's it. That's all we ask for.
Right. Hey, I want to thank you for doing this. Again, Justin and I had no plans of doing this early. We wanted to do it in
We didn't.
February, but I'm glad we answered a lot of questions. This is actually a pretty good background on your company that you can use. It'll be on our YouTube and I will be in our group. And thank you very much again for coming on and explaining.
Yeah, no, thanks for having me again. Reach out. We're happy to answer any questions openly and transparently. But Bob, I appreciate the time, and I'm excited to help dentists in another way than selling to a DSO.
Thank you very much.